In this guide, you'll learn how to create project templates and how to use those templates to create new projects. When you create a project in Starbrix, you normally just enter the project's information and start building from scratch. But if you often work with similar types of projects, templates will save you a lot of time. Let's start by creating a template. I click Add Project in the upper left corner. Here at the bottom, we see the template selector. Right now, there are no templates. So let's create one. I'll call this template Small House. That's enough for now. I click Create Project Template. Inside the template, I can add all the details I want: a description, customers, suppliers, and workspaces, a project manager and participants if it's usually the same people involved. The description and assigned resources will automatically be copied into the real project when you create it from the template. You can also set a planned start date and a planned end date. What really matters here is the time span between them, not the exact dates. When you create a real project from this template, it will use the same duration, but the actual start and end dates will adjust based on what you choose when creating the project. But in this example, I'll come back to the dates a little later, after I've created the tasks and set up their schedule. Let's go to the Gantt chart and add the tasks. I give them names, and then schedule them. I'll make them dependent on each other, so they follow a logical order. When you set schedules for the tasks, what really matters is the time span between them, not the exact dates. Later, when you create a real project from this template, it will keep the same durations, but the start and end dates will shift based on what you select. The dependencies are especially useful in the real project because they describe the task flow. For example, in a construction project, if laying the foundation takes longer than planned, you only update that task. The following tasks, like building the frame and installing the roof, will automatically move forward, keeping the project plan consistent without you having to reschedule everything by hand. If I want, I can also assign resources right here in the template. For example, Luca Rossi is always responsible for installing the roof. Templates can also include to-dos, smaller items that aren't part of the master plan, but are still important to keep track of. For example, ordering building permits, arranging the electricity connection, or buying paint samples. But in this example, I'll keep it simple and just call them to-do A and to-do B. And remember, when you create a real project from this template, these to-dos will also be copied across, so nothing gets forgotten. Templates can also include calendar events, things you want scheduled right from the start. For example, you might add a kickoff meeting as an event, or set up a site inspection in week 2. You could also add a recurring weekly status call. You can also set notifications in the template, not only for the project itself but also for tasks, to-dos, and, as I'm showing here, even for events. That way, reminders are automatically included whenever you create a new project from the template. There are still 2 small things I want to adjust on the Basic Info tab in this example project. First, I want the planned start and end dates to derive automatically from the task schedules. I could just as well have set that before creating the tasks. And second, I want to deselect myself as the project manager. Otherwise, I would by default become the project manager in all new projects created from this template. So now the template is ready. Let's try creating a real project from it. I go back to the Projects view, click Add Project, give it a name, and select the Small House template. Before creating the project, I decide what matters most. Should the project start on a fixed date, or should it be finished by a fixed deadline? For example, in construction projects, customers often require a fixed delivery date. So here, I set the planned end date to November 28th. When I create the project, Starbrix automatically adjusts the whole schedule so that the final task ends on that date. Now let's create the project. And it worked just as planned. The project's planned end date is November 28th. Let's check the Gantt chart. Yes, the last task now finishes on November 28th, and all the predecessor tasks have been aligned to match that schedule. We can also see that Luca Rossi is already responsible for installing the roof, just like in the template. The to-dos are included as well. And in the calendar, the kickoff meeting appears on the first day. This way, you get a ready-made project plan in just seconds. Even the Kanban board is set up for the project start. All the master plan tasks, along with the to-dos, are already placed in the Not Started column, ready to be moved forward as the work begins. What if you later discover the template needs adjusting? For example, maybe laying the foundation actually takes 5 days instead of 3. That's no problem. Just open the template and edit the task. But where do we find the template? First, select Projects. Then, in the upper right corner, open the selection list and choose All Project Templates. If you're on your personal member view, you'll only see templates where you're set as project manager or participant. If you remember, I deselect myself as project manager, and that's why the small house project template is invisible here. So where can I find it then? I first deselect myself in the upper left corner. Now I see all projects in the organization but still not the templates. Next, in the upper right corner, I select all project templates. And there it is. Let's open it. Now I'll go to the Gantt chart and change the duration of the lay the foundation task to 5 workdays. And as you can see, all the dependent tasks are automatically moved forward as well. It's good to remember that changes you make here only affect new projects created from this template. Existing projects based on the template will stay just as they are. That's how project templates work in Starbrix. They let you standardize your project setup, save time, and ensure consistency across all similar projects.